moyenne. Bonjour à tous et à toutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mary.
Très heureuse et très heureux.
We're so happy to see you all here today.
Long mois que nous préparons pour cet après-midi.
We've been preparing this for months and months. Today we've got this latest edition in L'Expo
en français.
Through the internet in French and in English. I would like to start with thanks, because this event could not exist without our sponsors, ArcelorMittal,
la Banque européenne,
the Bank of Luxembourg, the European Bank of Investment, and GMLT Paribas, and the Société Générale. This event is also organized in partnership with the Ministry in charge of Infrastructures, Sustainable Development and Foreign Affairs. We organized this event, and this is something you will see this afternoon, with our partner, Benelux. IMS, you will remember this, has become the national contact point for the B Corp body. A year ago, we signed the Memorandum of Understanding a year ago. Yes, this year we decided to title this Behind the Scenes, Active for Real Change. And you will see this, we will find out what happens in the real life. How do you actually buy your clothes? How do you travel? All sorts of daily activities with an impact, social impacts as well on our life. And we will have a look at what is happening behind the scene, and also the potential within those daily actions in order to have a sustainable future. So you are the citizens, you are the companies, you are at the forefront of this sustainable development activity. This is the menu for today. You will see that we prepared several sets, several actions, so it will be fairly dynamic. And we hope that it will be a source of inspiration to you in order to change things, because that is a necessity. As you said, Mary, we also want to underline something we deem to be a priority, which is water. Water, drinking water, which is vital, but which is also being threatened, which is why we chose to open the event with the dancing act we've just seen. Now, I would like you to applaud them very warmly. Together, here we've got Jade Verba, Pauline Lida and Justin Sen. And they are the three leaders of the team. Jade, you are often described as militants. What is the raison d'être of what you do? Well, Mid-12 was created in 2021. We are militants indeed. We are dancing, that's true. We are dancers, and our work is based on climate, biodiversity, water, and so on and so forth. We try to overcome borders, frontiers of an institutional nature. For example, we work with militants, with NGOs, we work with theaters, with the traditional sector, I would say, and we also defend this activism, but the idea is to be more creative. It's about using art in another way, in a new way, and that is what we are trying to do. Justin, could you say a few words about why the aesthetic part of dancing is so important in order to convey a message? Well, to start with, we didn't really ask ourselves a question, because we are dancers after all. But today, it's all about social media. And of course, if you are dancing, there is no language barrier, because you don't need to say anything, you just dance. So it's part of being a militant, and you use your body. That's called body language. And our body is our first instrument faced with climate change. Obviously, if you have a temperature that reaches 40 degrees and you have no water, it has an impact on your body, hence the importance of our body. Pauline, we've just seen a part of your performance. Well, this performance, which is well, it's a bit like all the other projects that we have. We're not especially looking for something related to the environment. We start with something that has impacted us personally. I started, for example, with my family. I actually grew up near the ocean, and then that led me to think about how climate change has an impact on oceans. That was my source of inspiration, you see, and what actually has an impact on us has an impact on everyone else. Yes, thank you to the three of you for this magnificent choreography. And the very good news is that we only saw one of the 4 acts that you will perform this afternoon. This was only the first part. There'll be 3 other parts. And we've got the hydrologist, Charlène Descollonges, with us. I will invite her, without further ado, to join me in order to have an interview. And this is the central theme of our activity, Behind the Water.
Charlène. Bonjour Marie, à tous et à toutes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Alors, notre premier objectif aujourd'hui.
Our first objective today is to better understand what is at stake when we talk about water. So thank you for being here. Thank you for having this interview with me. Just to introduce you very quickly, you are an engineer, you're a hydrologist, you're specialized in managing water and water resources. Do you know what they say about you? That you used to talk to the rivers when you were small. That's great. So today you are at the forefront of the fight in order to defend water. That is something, of course, we increasingly feel the impact of that today. And you're very committed in order to preserve water. And you say, and you're right, that water is also about living. You founded the association, which is called For a Regenerating Hydrology. So it's about the territorial nature of water. And I would like also to quote your book, which is highly pedagogical. And you can see it here, published this year, and by Fayard, is water. It's called L'eau, take or not. It's about preparing ourselves for the day when there will not be one drop of water coming out of the tap any longer. So, well, we've been through extreme heat. We've even been through a period of in the winter when it's very hot indeed. We've had tremendous rain, so it's a bit chaotic. And what you say is it's urgent to do something about it. Yes, thank you for this kind introduction. Yes, indeed, water is a vital element, and we all have a connection, which is, well, I would say a vital connection with water. Some populations consider rivers to be a member of their family. And this water cycle has tremendously deteriorated. And it's also about the way we represent water. Do you remember when we were at school and you thought that water was in a natural closed circle via the oceans? Well, an international study shows that our perception of the water cycle is not correct. And if you don't have the right representation of things, obviously, you won't find a solution to the problem. But in fact, before disturbing climate, we disturbed water. and it's all about, obviously, the ground. The ground is a pool of water. Now, on our planet, we have less than 1% of drinking water that's available for people. Can you imagine? I mean, we are billions of people, billions of living species, and we've got 1% of drinking water. And those grounds have become highly artificial as well. In Luxembourg, I found out that since 1999, we've got the Spatial Observatory in Luxembourg, and they have calculated that each day 5,000 square meters are being artificialized. So over 2 days, you've got the equivalent of a space of the parking space here that is actually converted. But obviously, if you've got cement, well, the water will not go through, and the ground will not be able to, as it were, drink water. And the second thing is that this water resource, just to give you a figure, we've got 24,000 billion cubic meters of water annually. Can you imagine that we use? It's more than half what comes out of the rivers at global level and goes into the oceans. It's huge. So it just goes to show that we actually use all those resources. Our hydro systems are entirely controlled. Fish, for example, 93% of migrating fish actually died lately. And that's because of what we do to our rivers. Now, water is a link between us. We need to change the way we look at water, and we'll do that together. Thank you. Yes, so there is a human influence, obviously, but then also there is something which is called climate change, and that is also linked to the water cycle. 1% more in terms of water temperature means 7% that go out in vapors. So that means that also the rain is changing. The Mediterranean area is going to get drier and drier. And in the northern part of the world, you will have annually more rain. And in some places, the time when you have a highly concentrated type of rain will change. And it will not always be at the same time of the year, and that will further deteriorate the water cycle. Indeed, with major consequences, loss of biodiversity, the groundwater, obviously, that will be affected. And it's also a matter of conflicts in the world about water. Biodiversity will be a victim. It will feed geopolitical conflicts. We see that in the news every day. The water cycle is being disturbed. And unfortunately, we do not understand what is happening. Now, the climate change obviously is forcing us to change, but it will need time for us to understand what is happening. The FAO says that nearly 90% of emerged lands will be affected. So yes, water is rare and few between, as they say, but obviously, we've also gone over the limit in terms of drinking water. We know that since 2022, but it has been confirmed with blue water. It was a study published last month by about 100 researchers, which is an update of what was done in Stockholm. Can you explain this notion of having gone over the limit? Yes. well, the Stockholm Resilience Center is the research center that establishes limits at global level. And those are very difficult to label. For green water, we've gone over the limit because of the change in the humidity of the ground. It was happening naturally up until the 50s, but then with urban planning, more cities, intensive farming, deforestation, the humidity is changing, and that's true at global level. As to blue water, we thought that we didn't necessarily had gone over the limit, but what we see in Europe is the way it goes into the oceans can vary. It depends on well, the disparity of humid areas. We lost 50% of those in, 50 years in Europe and in the world. And it's about regulating matters and having water when we need it. So what is actually circulating in terms of water has been deregulated. That's an extreme situation, of course. And then we've got also this mining mechanism. We extract too much water for the water to be able to regenerate itself. And this is true for groundwater. Those are being underfed. There is no filtering that can go through. Either. Well, you were talking about what is happening with carbon, what is happening with water that could be compared with the carbon print. Well, the water print is the grey waters, green waters, and blue waters. So water has three colors. We don't really talk a lot about green water, and that's the most important one. That's the one that goes through the plants. 2/3 of continental rain comes from this evaporating water. So, and when that happens, the cycle is being disturbed. So green water, we've gone over the limit, I said that. Blue water is what we use for drinking water for the industry, and grey water is polluted water because of waste. So when you do that, you can calculate the print, the imprint, 4,000 liters per inhabitant, 6,900 per day per inhabitant in Luxembourg. 75% is coming from the outside, meaning that most of the products that you import contain virtual water, water that has traveled all over the place and reaches you. And this virtual water is traveling. 3/4 of that is green water. That is the global limit that we've gone over. And that's water that's been used for cereals that are then later used for animal feed. Yes, a few notions about this notion of virtual water. We think that we drink a small cup of coffee. Well, actually, a small cup of coffee is a virtual 140 liters of water. 40,000 liters for a smartphone. I mean, that's quite impressive. All the electronics. Well, we need water for everything, don't we? Actually, do you know what I usually say? We eat water because usually we need water in order to produce our food. So, and we also have all those, the things we use every day, cotton t-shirts, smartphones. In order to produce all that, we need water. In order to extract metals, we need water to produce energy. In order to manufacture those things, we need water all along the chain. So what we need is an analysis of the life cycle in order to calculate the imprint of it all. Yes, but that's a matter of volume. But what about the quality of water? Can you say a few words about the quality of water? Micropollutants, for example. Where are we there? Well, micropollutants, it's a huge family of substances it's not a matter of size, it's a matter of concentration. They are present in small concentrations, but that's enough in order to have an impact on the health of ecosystems and human health. So I'm talking about phytosanitary or pharmaceutical residues, pesticides. They are being used for the textile industry and they are being used for our food. In Luxembourg, we are talking about 122 million of pesticides used annually. That's about well, the equivalent of what they have in France and in Spain. And those substances, what you don't realize is what happens to those substances. Once they are in water, they produce metabolites, derived substances. But even if you ban those substances in the groundwater, it remains and it will be polluting the system for 15 or 20 years. Okay, what about the solutions? Sometimes there are some attempts, quite creative attempts, I must say, that are being carried out, where we really try to provoke artificial rain. How do you feel about that? Well, those solutions that are being devised, we are talking about technological solutions here. This will actually allow us to control the water cycle even more. One of the technologies thought about in China is silver hard particles that will precipitate the advent of rain. But that's a geopolitical problem because India is accusing China of stealing their water these days. So that's all about sharing water, even the one we don't see, because it's in the atmosphere. And it's also the question of the necessary energy in order to deploy those technologies. This is something we will talk about, making sure that sea water can actually be treated in order to take the salt away. But that has a cost, and that has an environmental impact, obviously, on, for example, coral in the water, and that has an impact on the ecosystem. So we've got a lot of technological solutions, but my fear is the boomerang effect, and we see that for everything. So as soon as you create a resource, you have this feeling that it will be there forever, and you create new needs. So instead of doing that, we are going to develop another technology that will further control the water cycle. Yes, but there are more obvious solutions. For example, for water leaks, 50% of water extracted by collectivities in the world are never being redistributed to the population. Now, in Luxembourg, we're not at that level, but it looks like one of the very first solutions at global level. And I also want to quote you, 20% of our drinking water goes through the toilets when we flush water. So can you explain how that works? Because it's also about cleaning your car, cleaning the streets. Yes, if you travel around the world, you realize how fortunate we are here. And we have drinking water, and we use it for toilets. I mean, it sounds crazy. But one of the solutions is to substitute this drinking water with the recovery of rain. But you need administrative authorization, you need a dual calculation because rainwater will be part of another network and they will not take that into account when they calculate the amount of drinking water. I found out that Luxembourg is working on that solution. That's good. That's very encouraging. Okay, so various uses, various qualities of water. And we have also to think very hard about polluting. Well, it's a matter of substitution. We are going to look for water, which is not necessarily drinking water. We will look for non-conventional areas like water that comes down from the roof. It's also rain in a way. And okay, you can't drink it, but it can still be useful in terms of engineering. Yes, Charlène, in order to be really at the heart of your subject, you work for you want a hydrology that will be regenerating. It's about slowing down the water cycle in order for the water to filter through the parcel of land. So it's about water management in order to make sure that the water will go through and seep through as long as possible. Then we work on the land. Land has to be considered a sponge. And then the trees, because the trees can recycle water. We can go back to trees later. But a regenerating system is something you use in the farming sector, but also in urban planting when you plant trees. Yes, we talk a lot about sponge cities, don't we? And let's conclude, because we are nearly at the end here. But this is an invitation to change our relationship with water, isn't it? Yes, water should not be seen to be the way it is now, but it's a shared resource. We could even have a European law about that. It's about changing our paradigms. Yes, it's about sharing resources. I think that's a fitting end to this interview. Thank you very much, Charlène Descollonges. A warm applause, I think, is on order. Thank you.
Merci Charlène. Je rappelle donc votre ouvrage.
Thank you very much, Charlène. To remind you, here is your book, Law, Fake or Not. And I also would like to show you this magazine that is dedicated to the crisis of blue gold. That is water. So you'll find more information in these two books and magazines. And after each activity of our daily lives, we are going to show you what happens behind. And the first part of our economic life that we would like to explore is traveling. We all go on a holiday. So what happens when we choose a destination over another? What is mass tourism and what are its impacts on our planet and our societies? And I'm also talking about professional business trips. What can we do as individuals, as professionals as well? And how can we discover new horizons without traveling as much or finding other ways to travel? And we are starting now this new part behind your travel. And I would like to welcome my colleague who is going to present and to moderate this second part. And I first give the floor to Fabien Berger and Louise Raskin, two artists who are very versed in the art of improvisation, and they will show you a little piece in a few minutes. They have 4 minutes to impress us. What is the goal here? We prepared an environment and just one accessory that they will find as they enter the stage, and they will have to improvise something. So, Act 2, behind your track.